Hello, this is Yogeshwar 7000 again, and I'm back with on my series on retrograde planets. So far, we have discussed Jupiter retrograde, Saturn retrograde, Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde. So these are the four planets we have discussed so far, and today we'll be discussing about Mars retrograde. What happens when Mars goes retrograde and how does it affect a person? As you all know that Sun and Moon are always direct, they are never retrograde, and Rahu and Ketu are always retrograde. So we're not going to be discussing those planets in this series, and we've already discussed fourth, and the fifth in the series is Mars. And actually, as I've already discussed in my earlier videos, is that a planet actually never goes retrograde. All planets are going around the planet's sun, and we consider sun as a planet in Vedic astrology. So they're all going around sun, and they all have direct motion. But there are times when these five planets, which I just discussed, Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury, Mars, and Venus, they appear to go retrograde because sitting here from the planet Earth, there are times when these five planets will appear to go retrograde, meaning which they will appear to move in the opposite direction, which is not true. It's an illusion sitting here from the planet Earth. So that is the concept of retrograde, and it'll appear in a person's birth chart in the movement which is going in the opposite direction, meaning which, say for example, if a planet is retrograde, normally they move from one zodiac sign to another zodiac sign in the direct motion, meaning which, if for example Saturn is in Gemini, it's going to move into Cancer, and then it's after 30 degrees it's going to move again into Leo. So that's how the motion is. But at times, like I just mentioned, they appear to go in the retrograde direction, and they move in the backward direction. So although they appear to go in the retrograde direction, they actually are shown in the birth chart literally moving backwards. So that we have to remember that how it is depicted in the birth chart. And the effects of a retrograde planets are pretty different from as compared to if it was direct or in direct motion. And that what makes it very important for us to study the concept of retrograde planets in Vedic astrology. So we're just having this discussion just because their effects are different. Now, retrograde planets are the planets when they are closest to the planet Earth. That's when they will appear to go retrograde. So when in their orbit, when they are closest to Earth, that's the time when they will appear to be retrograde sitting here from the planet Earth. So for us sitting here from Earth, we will see those planets appearing to go retrograde when they are closest to the planet Earth in their entire orbit. And then we depict those as a retrograde planet in the birth charts. And since they are closest at that point, their influence on the planet Earth at that point is maximum, or actually multifold rather. So whenever a planet is retrograde, a lot of astrologers say that they become strong. No, they don't become strong. Their influence is much higher because they are closest to their distance, as far as their distance is concerned, as compared to when they were in the direct motion. Vakri and Margi are two terms which are used. Vakri being retrograde and margi being direct. Those are the terms used in Sanskrit. So sometimes you will see in birth charts mentioned as vakri, that's retrograde, and margi, which is direct. So what happens when Mars goes retrograde? Now, Mars is actually a significator of a lot of things like courage and bravery and ambition and drive and self-confidence, and they are born leaders as well, good leadership abilities, good fighters, good warriors, related with courage, of course. So these are the significations of the planet Mars, and whenever they are in retrograde motion, then these significations are adversely affected as per some astrologers. So courage, of course, according to some astrologers, I mean, they may not be very courageous. They may face challenges in terms of self-confidence and leadership abilities and drive and ambition and bravery, so on and so forth, according to some astrologers. However, I would say that those astrologers are correct, and that is a true assessment that when Mars goes retrograde, these are the challenges which a person can face. If the planet is retrograde in his birth chart, and also these are the challenges which in general people face when Mars is in retrograde motion in transit as well. So we all will feel those challenges which I just mentioned about the significations of the planet Mars. However, so I am going to qualify that. However, it is not true most of the time. Not most of the time. Many times this is not true. Now, Mars is also a major malefic, so a lot of malefic effects are also going to be felt very severely, since it's in retrograde motion and it's a malefic, so it's a double effect of facing challenges in those areas of significations. However, once again, I will qualify, not all the times does a retrograde planet like Mars we are discussing today will make these significations go and affect in a negative manner. They will not all the times, it may not be giving a negative effect if Mars is in a retrograde motion. So, and there are rules given by the sages, and it is written in the scriptures. What are those conditions? What are those rules when Mars in a retrograde motion will not give any negative effect? And I'm going to have a separate video on that. It's not, this video is too short actually to discuss those conditions and those rules, when we can discuss as to when Mars as a retrograde planet will not give negative effects related to its significations like courage, bravery, ambition, drive, confidence, and leadership abilities, so as to say. But I'll give you a small hint here that there is a big film star by the name of Amir Khan, who is a household name in Indian cinema. He has Mars retrograde, and I would encourage you all, and especially astrologers, to go and study his chart and see whether a malefic planet like Mars, which is in retrograde motion, has given him negative effects or not. So that's one little hint I'm giving you. Once again, Mars is a major malefic, so theoretically speaking, when it's closest to the Earth, because of its retrograde motion, as it appears, it should influence us much more, and since it's a major malefic, it should give malefic effects. But Not all the times it does. So I want you to think about it and read a few charts and come to a conclusion. And then, of course, like I said, I'll have a separate video on when it will give a positive effect and when it'll give a negative effect. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and that ends our series on retrograde planets. And in the meanwhile, I will recommend subscribe to my channel and check out my website. There is a link below, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.